unique, Jared, because we could be sitting here, and both of us, and it would just start like normal, and then we could decide that we're going to take it on the road, and suddenly we're walking. It would probably, I mean, you'd have to edit it. It would be just clips of us being silly.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun.
Maybe we could even do it like it's a dream, like you have the harp music and it gets like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could take this on the road, you know, and then we're out there doing dumb stuff and then it comes back. Yeah, well, it's just a dream. Anyway.
Faster in a Krispy Kreme drive-thru. It's like a large.
Oh, you know what we absolutely need to do? You can book this right now. We've got the lavs on, and it's just us in the golf cart. We're just riding around, just berating people.
I hadn't thought about that.
And
yeah, we can do that. Ride around and berate people.
And I'll
then
just
you
be
can come
making-
into the elders meeting where we get fired.
I'll be
Film
driving.
that.
I was going to let Pastor drive, but we all know how he had his license taken away 6 years ago. Miss Debbie drives him everywhere.
Oh,
things
gosh.
like that.
She does not like to drive.
Yeah, my wife doesn't like that either.
I wonder what it is. Do you like to drive, Joe? Is it a woman thing?
It just depends. I mean, most of the time I'm good to go. On longer trips, I prefer not to.
Debbie she doesn't like to drive, which is crazy. And my best friend, she drives 90% of the time, 80% of the time. Drives him around, you know.
So your best friend's wife drives him around?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's different how, it goes for different people. My wife, the only time she wants to drive is when she's like, I've been dealing with these kids for 6 hours.
I'm out of here.
Well, it's like, well, no, we're on a road trip. We're going to
Yeah.
Maryland. It's 13 hours. I drive, I'm locked in. She's like, I've been feeding the kids snacks and dealing with all this. Like, I'm taking a break. She gets in the driver's seat. And then, you know what happens after that? I just ignore the kids. I'm like, they don't need any of this stuff. And then she's like, why don't you give them this? No, I'm like, they don't need that. They're fine. Why don't you give it to? Because I'm not going to. They're whining. And then.
Oh my star! 13-hour drive.
Pulls back.
Don't
over.
you think it's worth putting out a little cash and flying instead of driving?
If it was a little cash. If it was little, yes. Southwest, they raised all their price. You got to pay money for Southwest back. I know you've been flying first class for 35 years. In Southwest,
first class
instead for us plebeians, yeah. So Southwest, you got to pay for bags now.
Do you really?
Yeah,
that is
just
the
changed it.
To
Did you
me,
see
that's
this?
the
You don't care.
dumbest thing airlines have done is to charge people for bags.
Yeah.
I don't mind the minimum.
Yeah.
You got 2 bags or you got a bag and a carry-on or whatever, but to charge people for bags is just, I think, ridiculous.
It really is something. It's like going into a restaurant and
Them charging you for the forks.
Yeah, or for the seat. They're like, did you want a fork with this? Yeah. Do you want a fork with this meal? Did you want to sit down with this meal? You're like, that's the reason I'm here.
It's crazy, really.
Did you want to bring stuff with you on this flight? Or do you just have a second set of everything at your destination? It's silly. Anyway, yeah, so it is a 13-hour drive to Maryland. We've started to break it up, Instead of shelling out the $2,000 or so for the flight, we just pay a couple $100 for a hotel, and the kids
do y'all
love
get
it.
2 rooms?
No, just one still.
Just the one?
Just the one. And you might think that we wouldn't be able to sleep well when we're all together, and you'd be right. It's that we don't sleep very well. But it's, we just stay all together.
So you get a rollaway to come in.
Yeah.
You got the bed and you get a rollaway or 2 rollaways.
Yeah, and sometimes I call them like, can you roll these kids? I don't know. This is dumb. I don't actually do that. But the kids love the hotel because they get to go to the pool. The hotel always has the pool.
Yeah.
So I take them down there and they splash around. They get nice and tired, and then we put them to bed, and then I go to bed. It works. It works for us. It's worth it. Hey, it's worth it to see those grandparents.
Yeah.
Stay up and.
Yeah.
You know how
you
that
sleep
is.
late when you go there?
At my folks' house?
Yeah. See,
later.
our kids will come in, and it's
I see what you're saying.
And the kids get up. The grandkids get up at like 5 o'clock, 5:30.
Yeah.
And their parents stay in the bed till like 10, and we're down there tending and
Yeah.
feeding breakfast and
That is-
juggling.
That's a ministry, that's a blessing. for
That's
the
a,
Lord.
yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
You know what I do?
Oh, gosh.
What I
So I guarantee you did that. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
And yes, and as long as my.
Well,
kids are
let the
happy,
parents
that's-
down there to do that. Let them take care of it. We're gonna sleep late this morning.
I just can't sleep that late.
I can't either.
I can't do it. What I do when I'm on vacation is I get up early and I just go out and walk. If we're on the beach, I walk on the beach. Wherever we, if we're somewhere else, I put shoes on. I just walk a couple of miles, clear my head.
So y'all will break it. You'll stop and get a motel room.
Yeah, we used to do it all in one shot, but it's just kind of miserable. You kind of hate it the whole time. You get there at like 2 a.m. because you lose an hour going to the East Coast anyway.
Mhm.
So that messes it up even more. So yeah, we break it up. So that's our July 4th trip. That's kind of our tradition. It's fun.
Bless your heart.
It's
I'm glad
it's
that
a
you
lot
and
of
not
fun.
me.
It's worth it to see, the people up there at the Bullis Estate. I bought my folks a sign that says the Bullis Estate.
Compound.
Yeah,
The
it's more like a
Bullis
commune. Yeah,
Compound.
The funny thing is they're living on this repurposed farmland. It's the farm where my mom grew up, but now it's all residential. So every time we go back, there's like a new house built around there because the land has been piecemeal sold off, a new house, and the houses are like 5 times the size of my parents' house. It's wild just to look across the field and I'm just like, this is it's so different from where I grew up now. Just like everything else, time passes,
Yeah.
things
Things
change.
change. Yeah. They
Yep.
do.
Southwest charges for bags now.
They're gonna start charging. They're gonna start doing seats like the other airlines.
That's right. Would you like to sit down?
They're gonna, I guess have first class. I don't know.
They are doing some of that. Yeah, they are. And it's always so funny to me when they release they have the press release and they tell you about all these things that are objectively bad for the consumer, but
Yeah.
they do it in a way to try to make it seem like it's going to be a great new adventure for all of us and all of our Southwesties or whatever they call them, the Southwest fans. And you're reading this just like, could you just tell me the truth?
Yeah.
Just tell me the truth that this is going to be bad for me. See you, Jared. He's done with us. He's
gone.
closing the door. Oh, he's on the phone.
left.
Okay.
Oh.
He's on. Very, very
Well,
important phone call. Jared's gotta take.
I have to fly Delta most of the time, but I like flying American because I can buy up. A lot of times you can buy up.
So you
on
can
American.
go even higher than first class. This is really
No,
something.
I don't buy first
I'm
class.
sorry, okay.
It's just too stupid expensive.
Yeah.
But on American, if you've got I'm generally into comfort. I just have to have
Yeah.
a little bit of room, and especially with my back. But they'll send out a thing and say, "Hey, would you like to upgrade your seat to first class for $99?"
You're like,
and
yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do that. So I'll just pay the $99. And
That is pretty nice.
it is. I like the way they do it. I wish Delta did that.
Delta won't do it.
No.
Come on, Delta,
Delta's
get
a
your
little-
act together.
They well, anyway.
Delta-
I fly them. I like Delta. Most of the time I like them. I just like the way American treats you when they'll give you the option of buying up
I thought
at
that.
a decent price.
I thought the thing you liked best about Delta was their ability to always trap Gordon Ford in the Atlanta airport.
Gosh. Gordon, I normally check to see, Gordon, are you flying today? Because if you are, I'm going to try to change my schedule.
Because he always gums up the work.
He gums it up. He sure does. I fly Delta because I can get Biscoff cookies.
Is that right? It's
Yeah.
all about the cookies?
Yeah.
I don't even know about that. Joanna's giving praise.
I
hands.
get a. Oh, my stars
I
are
don't
so
thi-
good.
I'm not a.
And the little whites.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I
The
think
two
so.
little
Yeah.
cookies like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's good.
yeah. They're really
You can
that
get them
good.
in stores now too, did you know that?
I can't. Yeah, I have seen. I used to buy them online. I'd get them
Biscoff.
online, but now you can. But there's something about being on that plane and you got a hot cup
Cookie
of coffee
experience,
and
yeah.
the steward or flight attendant comes
Yeah,
by and
right.
says, "Hey, wouldn't you like a Biscoff for
Yeah.
that?" Yes, I'd like 20 of them.
Yes.
Thank you.
And they give them to you because you're sitting in first class.
I like it. First class messes you up. Because if you get first class, and you sit up there and you think, oh gosh, I feel like now I'm part of the hoi toi. I'm part of the, elite group here. And then when you got to fly back home, they have to go, okay, here's your seat. It's, seat 64.
Yeah. Like an animal.
In the back, next to the bathroom. And you feel like, what did I do? How did I get demoted so fast? I thought I was nice when I was in first.
Jerry Seinfeld has that old bit about like when you're not sitting in first class and the flight attendant goes to close the thing, and she kind of gives you a look
looks at everybody
you
like,
don't deserve this, kind of thing. You don't deserve to be on the other side of this.
You cannot watch what happens to these folks up here. What we're serving these people, you will not be able to see.
The jealousy will be so much, it'll ruin your whole
It used to
flight.
be great. They used to, I used to catch that flight out of Dallas in the mornings, going wherever I was going, and if you were in first class, they would bring you a nice breakfast.
They don't do that anymore?
No, good night. You're lucky if you get popcorn, They used to bring you a nice little breakfast. It was nice,
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's capitalistic entropy is what's happening here. Stuff just keeps getting worse.
It's not fair. I don't like it. I think Congress should do something about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Maybe if we raise taxes, it'll help the government intervene in areas like this even better. So thank you guys for coming to our Monday morning podcast here. Wow, this has been super uplifting so far. Super uplifting.
We just want to make your day
so great.
I know.
We love starting our days like this. We start our days and then it just gets us set for all the meetings we go to.
Meetings.
I was just. So you talked about first class reading. This has ruined me in staff meetings because Pastor and I are always on the opposite sides.
I'm thinking all kind of stuff.
Pastor and I are on the opposite side of the room, and we'll occasionally hot shots will go back and forth across the room, and everyone's like,
what does that
What are they even talking about?
What is that about? They don't know. Only if they could know the minds of this group right here.
If they would just take, a few dozen hours and watch every episode of this, they'd be on the same page. How they spend their time, that's between them and the Lord.
That's right.
There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, and that's probably a good segue for us to spend some time in the Word today.
Yeah, actually do what we should be.
Yeah, God forbid. Hey, I tell you what, and I was gonna tell you this offline because I didn't want this to sound disingenuous here. But Pastor, this message ministered to me so much yesterday.
Did it really? I couldn't even get but to one point.
Well, and I want you to preach the second point this Sunday.
Oh gosh, I don't. No, I thought about that, but I
wanted you to do that.
No, I've already started studying. I'm going to be in Matthew 4 with the first I will of Jesus.
Okay. Well, maybe I can talk you out of that.
Do you know what the first I will of Jesus is?
Well, Matthew 4, so that's before the Sermon on the Mount starts.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think. I can't
Follow
think
me, and I will make
fishers
you
of men.
Fishers of men. That's the first I will of Jesus right there. There's 7. There are more than 7, just like there's a lot more I ams than the 7 that are normally picked out in John's gospel. There's more than this, but I'm gonna probably I don't know, do 7 of these. Look at the 7 I wills of Jesus, and that's the first one. He comes by and he looks at Peter and Andrew, and he says, follow me. And they leave everything and follow him. And then he comes on down a little bit later, and he's going to see James and John. He's going to say the same thing to them. And he called them, and they follow. So you got these 4 guys here, Peter, Andrew, James, John. That
Brothers.
Makes up the hub.
Right.
That's the hub of the apostolic wheel.
2 sets of brothers.
Yeah. Which that's interesting, isn't it?
It is. It's very interesting.
2 sets of brothers that are there.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then you come to Thomas, which means twin, and you wonder, well, where's his twin?
I know. Was it a sister? Who knows?
I don't know. It could have been. I guess so. Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, Thomas, very, very interesting story. Did you talk about that recently? I was listening through something.
Thomas?
Yeah, just the whole thing of like the proof, how he needed proof. He looks at
No.
the scars, the idea. I think that's fascinating, the idea that the renewed body of Christ has the scars of
Yeah.
his life. That
I
there's
think
these
you were listening
particular...
to T.D. Jakes. I think he did that. I think that's who was doing that. Somebody did that, and I don't remember who it was, because you know what? I caught a bit of that as well. And I don't remember who it was.
I can't...
I know that there was a guy that came out and made the comment that Jesus was tied to the cross and not nailed to the cross. Did you see that?
Wow. Well, tell me
And
about it.
well,
I've heard something about this.
You know, he came out, and of course he followed right back up with that and said, hey, listen, I was just throwing this out because, you know, this talks about how they would tie him up, and that kind of thing. And he apologized, and he said, because Mike Stone is a smart guy. And Mike Stone came out and quoted, yes, reach out your finger and put it in the rope marks on my arm. Jesus said that to Titus, and so that kind of settled that issue.
Yeah, people are so desperate to say something new.
Just like the thing you sent to me about Judas last night. Said, hey, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah,
and I guess you're going to bring it up. I don't know.
I wasn't planning on it, but we could.
But that whole thing, is Judas in heaven? And, you know, I was thinking earlier today in the study, I just thinking, you know, I think some of these preachers and theologians get together and they're thinking one of two things. One, we're not getting enough press right now. So let's just throw something just ridiculous out there. Or number two, we have nothing to do and we're so bored. Why don't we just argue something that is insane? Judas really went to heaven. Well, boy, you got a lot of problems with that.
Well, so yeah, I sent you the wrong article. I think it's it's pretty obvious. Well, it's just pretty obvious from Scripture that Judas, that's not where. I mean, you know, he's the son of perdition. Like, I don't know the son of perdition.
But who would start an argument about that? I mean, who would start a debate about that?
Well, to me, so now we're talking about it. To me, the text is just interesting there, Matthew 19:28, when Jesus is addressing the 12 and says, all of you will judge on 12 thrones in my coming kingdom. And it's kind of like, well, what do you do with the fact that Judas is standing there? You know, like, obviously, his time has not yet come. He hasn't called Judas out as the betrayer yet. Mm-hmm. So his disciples aren't ready for that. But it's just kind of like figuring out exactly what Jesus was talking about. And is Matthias then one of the ones, and is that a literal ruling? You know, I'm asking way too many questions.
Yeah, and then there's the debate on Matthias. Did the disciples jump ahead? Did the apostles jump ahead?
They're there casting lots
of the Holy Spirit and say, hey, we're going to pick this guy. And if they had waited, Paul would have come along. You know, which is a good. That's a reasonable question there. However, I do think that if you look at the passage, which is Acts chapter 1, the second part of it, it seems to be that they were led of the Lord to do what they were doing. Matthias was there through the ministry. So they put forward, therefore it's necessary that all that of the men who've accompanied us all the time that the Lord Jesus went out, in and out among us. So Matthias was there. We just don't read about the others other than the 12. And a lot of the 12, you don't read much of anything about them.
Know anything about Bartholomew?
So there were others that were there, like Matthias, like Barsabbas, you know, Joseph called Barsabbas. These were guys who followed along with the disciples and Jesus the whole way. Because in order to be a disciple, you would have had to have been there during his ministry.
Right.
And that's what they're saying there. One of these must be a witness with us of his resurrection. They had to see the resurrected Christ. So, you know, I think Matthias probably was the one to take Judas's place.
Well, and what you just gave, I thought that's an excellent synopsis of the criteria for being an apostle.
Yeah.
And also then kind of an argument of why, like, that apostolic era ended with
Yeah.
the passing of the final apostles,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So because this is a debate, you know, different denominations. Like there's people that say, no, apostles still exist today. We can ordain an apostle, you know.
Well, the gift of an apostle was taking the gospel where the gospel had never gone before. Now, there's a gift of that, but there is
well
not
said.
a position. There is not an office.
Right.
At least I don't think, and if an apostle is watching us, I don't mean to slight you, but I don't think that office exists anymore.
Certainly not in the way that like Peter is walking by and his shadow is like healing people,
Yeah.
right? You know, like that's the uniqueness of those gifts is, you know, for a particular time.
Yeah.
Not that healings don't continue. I believe that strongly.
Sure.
You know, that the Lord will do miraculous things, you know. So anyway, wow, I really took us, or you took us, I don't know. I'll blame it all on you. That was,
Okay,
you took
well,
us, you took us way on that.
That sets me off for the
on
normal
that,
Monday, right
on
there.
on the tangent. All right, so we're coming back, and you've got. Well, let's just go then to John 15. We haven't really dug into that yet, and this is so. I'll set this up by saying, like, this has been a challenging passage to me. Honestly, not really in terms of understanding. I mean, it's fairly easy. There's some things about it that are very easy to understand, where Jesus just tells his disciples to abide in him. And that has challenged me for years. I feel like I've struggled with that. And so I feel we can get into some of the controversial parts and historical parts. I hope that we have time for that. But the biggest takeaway, I felt like for myself and the average congregation member, was stop trying to do so much for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He's already done it.
Yeah.
He's secure. He is the true vine, and he's secured that for you.
Yeah, well, he keeps telling them in here, apart from me, you can't do anything. If you're not abiding in me, why do you think you can do something? So the main thrust of this has to be the word abide, because it's used 9 times here in 7 verses. And he just keeps ringing that thing like a bell. Abide, 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 abide.
Well, and he proves that he is the source, like he's able to be abided in.
Yep.
He says, I'm the true vine, which your exposition on that was so clear and so helpful, because, and I'd love for you to talk more about this, that every time Israel as the vine is mentioned in the
yeah.
Old Testament, it was like a condemnation.
There was always a rebuke and a judgment that came, that followed up with that. Because Israel in the Old Testament is always seen as the vine. You could go to Isaiah, you can go to Jeremiah, you can look at
You took us to Psalm 80.
Yeah, I took you to Psalm 80. There are a number of places in the Old Testament where you see this, but there's always this rebuke that comes to them. There's always this impending judgment that's going to come, because they did not do what they were told to do. They were not obedient to do that. That's why Jesus comes and I'm the true vine. I'm the real deal. I'm genuine, and I will accomplish what Israel has not accomplished. What God wanted them to do, I'm going to do. So he gives birth, he bears the fruit of the church.
And that, and you showing us that in the Old Testament just underscores how unique and beautiful that is. I had never made that connection before, that God has said, one of his chosen symbols or illustrations for what Israel is supposed to be is this vine. And every time he mentions that, it's, well, you failed. You haven't been a good enough vine.
Right.
You haven't borne the fruit that I've desired you. And you actually even connected that to, like, if Israel had done what they were supposed to do, how you would have been like a Messianic Jew preaching to us,
Yeah,
right? There wouldn't be like a Gentile kind of thing.
We would have Jewish pastors, you know. That's what God intended Israel to do, was to take his word, his law, his morality, you know, biblical morality, to take all of that to the rest of the world. They were to be the light to the rest of the world.
Israel largely rejected that.
They just were disobedient. They didn't do it. You know, the second thing I was going to do in this passage that I wanted to get to is verse 9 just has really captivated me. And that's Jesus, just as the Father has loved me. Now, Jesus is saying to these guys, just as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Now, just stop and try to drink that in.
That's wild.
In the way that the Father loves the Son says, I have loved you. And you just make that personal. He has loved me in that way. Now, what kind of love does God the Father have for God the Son? I don't know how in the world we could even begin to express that or explain it. But Jesus says, this is the way I love you. Now, that is a lot of love. That ought to bring security and safety and certainty to life. That gives you a certainty.
Yeah.
That's why he turns around and he says, abide in my love. If you abide in my love, there's not going to be all this insecurity. There's not going to be all of this mad dash for ego building. There's not going to be, you don't need all of that. You're going to have everything you need in the love of Jesus Christ for you. So abide in it. Live in it.
That'll preach.
You know, I don't know if what people will think about this, but I watched The Conclave Friday night.
What is that?
That's the movie about the conclave. You know, the Pope dies.
Is this
it's the
a
movie
recent-
that
is this
just
a
came-
recent
yeah.
one? Oh, okay.
It's kind of funny how it's just out right now. You know, the Pope dies, and all the cardinals are gathered together, and they have the funeral, and 9 days later they are gathered in the Sistine Chapel,
Wow.
and they vote on a new pope. And it's all the political wrangling and all of this.
Yeah.
And the guy that's left is a dean. He's the dean of the conclave. He runs the conclave. He oversees the whole thing. It's really a good movie,
Oh,
even
okay.
though I think there's some underlying political messages going on.
Oh boy.
that
That's
are-
everything these days.
Yes, it is. It's like Hollywood has got to comment and be in on every weird concept that comes up. But I watched it Friday night. I told Debbie about it when she got home because she and the girls all went. She took all the girls out to see The Little Mermaid, the
Oh, that's
play
fun.
down at the theater.
Yeah.
So we watched it again Saturday night. I told her last night, I said I could go home and sit down and watch it a third time.
Wow.
But the one thing the guy gets up, the dean of the conclave, is he basically says the greatest sin I've come to see in life is certainty. And I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me. Certainty. There is a certainty in the Word of God.
Right.
There's a certainty in the love of Jesus Christ. And that's what I see in verse 9 there. And that's the verse I wanted to get to preach, was that. The Father, just as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. And so he says, abide in my love, and comes in verse 10, and he says it again, abide in my love. And then in verse 12, this is my commandment, that you love one another just as I've loved you. So if Jesus loves us with the love that the Father has for him, then Jesus tells us, you turn around and love each other with that kind of love. Now that is just more than you can just put your brain around. And then he comes back, and in verse 17, it's the end of this pericope here, and he says this, I command you that you love one another. You know, you think if we would listen to this, it would deal with a whole lot of issues in marriage. It would deal a whole lot with issues in church if we just stop to think about the love that God has for us through Jesus Christ.
It would take a lot of thought on the front end, you know, just like
Yeah.
trying to process what does that mean that God the Father loves God the Son
Yep.
with this perfect kind of love, all the implications of that.
Yeah.
Well, and then Jesus outlining something. If that is happening, it means that I can love you like this, and if I can love you like this is then the commandment. You should
And
love one another.
in the middle of that, in the middle of his talking about love, you know, on both sides it bookmarks it. Verse 11 is his joy, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. So I know it's time
Oh, I
But
know.
that's a good
That'll preach,
passage
brother.
right there to just chew on for about a week. Just get up and read that every morning and think about it and chew on it.
Well, I'm glad we got a little bit of it. Okay, so I'll receive that. You don't have to preach it this Sunday, but that was really helpful. So big takeaways from today. Airlines need to get their act together.
Yeah.
Conclave, pretty good movie.
It's a thought-provoking movie, and I didn't pick up one single negative thing other than,
Yeah.
you know,
Hollywood needs to get their act
they
together.
smoke and drink.
Quit with the, the Cardinals do. That's
Yeah,
pretty funny.
yeah.
I thought that was just their censor, but they're smoking.
No, they actually smoke cigarettes.
So I thought it was just clove cigarettes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Been fun spending this time with you, and we'll see you at Awana Awards ceremony on
On
Wednesday night.
That's right. Big night.
And then we're gonna see everybody for Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day. Did you
This coming Sunday?
Yeah. Did you get anything for? Better get something
No,
for Miss
I
Deb.
sure am
I'm
glad
giving
you
you
told
6
me.
days notice.
Yeah. Good.
So
Thank you.
You've got it. Okay. Well, we better and we better cut transmission so you can get to work on that. Say goodbye, Pastor.
Goodbye, Pastor.
There's a good.